Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Fridays with the Wave. I'm Mark Healey, the editor-in-chief of the Wave newspaper, Rockaway's newspaper since 1893. Really excited, as I am every week when the Wave comes out. And, I'm in particularly good mood because yesterday we found out that Paula DeGioia, our art director and graphic designer, won second place in the New York Press Association Awards for her excellent work in last year's summer guide. So I certainly want to congratulate Paula and the rest of the staff at the Wave for winning second place in such a prestigious award ceremony with the New York Press Association. So thank you to Paula and thank you to the New York Press Association for making sure that the Wave was represented so well. We've got some other entries in some other categories, so hopefully we have some other interesting awards to announce, but certainly the work that we do here every week, I am so proud of the staff here and everybody involved because they do such a wonderful job, and this week is no exception. When you look at the front page, and I apologize, we still haven't figured out how to do this where it doesn't look backwards, but if you could see the front page this week is really exciting. We had our photographer Kyle Turbos, who does a fantastic job, take this wonderful photo at the special softball game from last week with the 101st Precinct and Queens Defenders and a whole bunch of different folks had gotten together to promote this community event. And when you look at the rest of the front page, you've got Ray Van's story, Send In Your Whales, and we've also got a really interesting story by Dan Offner. That's right, Dan Offner is back here at the Wave and doing a fantastic job. He did a story on the Arverne East project and how locals aren't really happy with the plan, or at least not overly happy with the plan. And our quote of the week is Alexis Smallwood Foote, who basically says that, we need more than just, this development. We need other things in this community. Certainly you could go to that story as well as Send In the Whales that has a lot of information about, folks that always are taking pictures of whales and putting them on Facebook or putting them in different places. Basically what that story is all about is that Gotham Whale, our friends at Gotham Whale want you to take another step and not only take those photos and post them on Facebook or whatever, but actually send them to Gotham Whale. And that all that information is in the story by our Ray Van. So there's a lot of different things that I wanted to discuss this week, and I want to keep it short because Fridays with the Wave is kind of like a little introduction to what the paper is that particular week. But it's also an opportunity for us to have a chance to talk about what's going on in the community. And I really want folks out there to, it's great that you watch it, it's great that you're sharing it, but send me questions. Send us questions here at the Wave, and I'd love to answer them here as much as possible, as much as humanly possible, here on Fridays at the Wave so that we can address them and get them moving forward. One of those instances happened this week. Eugene Falick, our friend on the community board, who's also part of the Bayswater Civic community board, he had reached out to me about the fact that he had sent in a letter, or he had actually filled in his census form online back in March, and that the other day someone came to his house and knocked on the door as a census worker, and he was like, what are you doing here? I actually filled out my census online, and they said they had no record of it. So again, this is a perfect situation where you write a letter to the editor. I print it. It's in this week's letters on page 4. And now this is a starting point for us to do our own investigation, which we will be doing moving forward. So thank you, Eugene, for sending in that letter and for allowing me to bring it up as an issue that a lot of us are facing. Because let's be honest, the census is really important. I know that the government keeps telling you that, and maybe some of you aren't fond of the government right now, whether it's the city government or the state or the federal. But filling out that census makes sure that Rockaway gets what Rockaway needs. And I can't tell you how many times I've heard people say, and myself as well, in editorials and such, that Rockaway does not get the attention it deserves. It does not get the the benefits of being a incredible tourist attraction. It does not get the support. It does not get the infrastructure. Well, fill out your census form, because that's a really big, important part of that process. And if you're not taking, control of that process, then that's a situation where we need to really, kind of get on top of it, and that is filling out your census form. You still have time. So if you have that form lying around, or you need to go to, the online portion of that, make sure you do it, folks. We'll make sure that there's something in the paper this week directing you to where you need to go. We'll put it on social media. We'll make sure that everyone knows that they have to fill out the census form. Also, this week, we had some interesting stuff in the paper. Kay Sullivan, who's been writing our Sullivan Stories column, she does a fantastic job. She did a really interesting piece this week about speakeasies. And I don't want to ruin it because I want you guys to read it, but check it out. It's really, really interesting. In fact, we during the course of the week, when we get a lot of these columns and a lot of these stories as they come in, we read every one more than once. And it's just always interesting when someone who writes for us every week puts in a column where everyone's like, yeah, that was really interesting. So good job, Kay. And there's just so much every week, that we talk about with the paper. It's just so much fun, and I want to talk a little bit about looking back. Looking back has been in the newspaper here at the Wave for as long as, not only as long as I can remember, but certainly it's been a column that when you go back in the archives, has been here for a really, really long time. And we go back 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, 60 years. And about a year ago, I took over the curation of that column. And it had always been something that someone else in the office had done. And I don't know what happened, that someone was on vacation or something like that. And I decided, I'll do Looking Back this week. And I haven't stopped doing it since. I absolutely love doing the Looking Back column. And I'm not saying it because I want everyone to know. My byline's not on it. It's like I said, it's a curation of our history. The Wave has been a part of Rockaway since 1893. I take that very seriously and very responsibly. So when I am looking for pieces to include in that week's Looking Back, I'm always doing so with a theme in mind, or, the whole idea of those who ignore history are doomed to repeat it. And I'm a big believer in that. That's why I always loved history when I was a kid. That's why I love it now. I think that we often forget how cyclical things can be. I think we often forget that that there are things that people have been complaining about in Rockaway for a long time. And, the paper is celebrating our 127th anniversary. And so with that in mind, that's why I get such a kick of doing Looking Back every week. And the other thing I realized is that people read it and they reach out if there's an error. I remember once somebody reaching out and saying, that didn't happen 20 years ago. You must have your dates wrong. It happened 12 years ago. So even at that point, I started taking even more seriously than I already do. So Looking Back is a big thrill for me to do every week, and I really appreciate everyone kind of reaching out and stepping up and telling us what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong and what we need to fix, because that's what the newspaper is all about. I touched on this last week, how the newspaper is a conversation, and it's really important that the community understands that. And when I talk about conversation, I want to talk about the editorial this week. The editorial this week, it's always on page 4, and I'm squinting because I can't see. Uh, so on page 4 this week, our editorial. It's called Q&A, and it's another great illustration by Thomas Kerr, our award-winning editorial illustrator. I talk about the conversation because, granted, here in Rockaway we're not especially fond of the mayor. We're not especially fond of the chancellor, Richard Carranza. We are not especially fond of how the city goes about planning things. This is all a given, right? So what I endeavored to do this week is that I was one of the media folks that were asked to be part of the conversation with Richard Carranza earlier in the week on one of the mayor's media briefings. And rather than take the opportunity to rail at the mayor or rail at the chancellor, I wanted an answer to a question that we asked and we've been asking since the plans to reopen schools had been made to fruition. And I don't want to give away too much. I want you to read the editorial, see how we handled it, see how we then reached out to some parents after they heard what the chancellor had to say about it. And, it was a give and take. It wasn't yelling. It wasn't slamming our shoe on the table. It was a conversation. And if we want things to change, if we want things to get better, if we want to move forward, a really important person that's come into my life the last couple of years, someone who I depend on for their advice, said, look, I know that you enjoy the bully pulpit, and I know that you enjoy going after the mayor and the governor and whoever else, the federal government, whoever else is not doing right by Rockaway. But sometimes a conversation, a give and take, trying to find a meeting of the minds is more effective. And I really think that if we want this school year to be successful, if we really want our kids, because let's be honest, we're all angry. We all take to Facebook. We all, voice our complaints on Twitter. We all have these different ways of getting our outrage out. But this isn't about us. It's really not. It's about our kids. It's about the educators. It's about our city moving forward. So I guess what I'm saying is that my responsibility here at the paper is to find solutions to our problems, right? That's part of my job. It's not just crossing the T's and dotting the I's and making sure that, all the stories are in by deadline. It's also about being the voice of the community. And when that voice is always yelling, then the stuff that we yell about that's important gets lost in the cacophony of everything else that we complain about. So what I'm looking for from our community, from our parents, from our educators, and even from our students, let us know what problems you're facing. Let us know what it is about this school year that's daunting, what hasn't been addressed yet. And perhaps in a way that is calm, that is controlled, we can move forward and have those conversations, which we've never been able to have before, by the way, as I mentioned last week, with the Department of Education. And let's make sure that Rockaway's children, Rockaway's teachers, are being treated equitably. The only way we're going to be able to do that is with hard data, is with people who are willing to go on the record and express what their concerns are and what their, what problems that they're facing. And that's what I think is what we should be focusing on moving forward, is solutions, not complaining. Look, there's a way to complain, there's a way to state what your situation is without yelling about it on Facebook, because really all you're doing there is telling Facebook how you feel and telling your neighbors how you feel. the chancellor doesn't read Facebook. The chancellor doesn't, he may have a staff that does that. But if you really want to make your concerns known, I think that sending a letter to the editor, giving us a call here at the office at 718-634-4000, letting the Wave know how we can bring that problem or bring that issue to the table so that we can solve the issue that we need to solve. So in essence, this week is another great week for the Wave. I say that wholeheartedly because I'm really a big fan of what we do, and especially this week, I thought that everybody really, there's so much good stuff in here. Matt Caputo, our special projects editor, he put together a really great story about the hockey rink on Beach 108th Street, and that is really interesting. I really suggest that you check out our sports section, which is really expanding by the week. It's fantastic. If you are a coach, if you are a player, if you are someone that is involved with kids and you want to get your program out, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Let us know so we can promote whether it's the Rockaway Ravens, who we'll be talking about next week, or it's the Rockaway Rockies, or it's the St. Francis de Sales Classics, which Tom Burke has been doing a great job with covering them, both not just in the paper but also in social media. Look, we're doing so many great things here at the Wave. We want you to be part of it. And thanks once again for sharing your Friday with us.